Good morning, patriots and freedom-loving Americans. As you can see, we've changed location. I kind of like it better in here. It's more bright. See all those neon signs? But anyway, we have a lot of news to cover today, and we have some pretty interesting stories, and we're going to go pretty deep into the immigration issue, and that might offend some of you, but I hope not. Anyway, to get things started, Trump says that he is terminating all of Biden's executive orders with AutoPen. So if you remember, this was a couple months ago, it came out that a bunch of Biden's executive orders had been signed not by him by hand, but by AutoPen. And now other presidents have done that before. But in this case, we know that Biden wasn't with it. Could he even explain one of his executive orders? And we knew that he had dementia in office and all these other things. So when this AutoPen thing came up, makes you think, right? Like Biden wasn't the guy that was really in control the whole time. It was all the people that were underneath that were running it. And so Trump's saying he's going to terminate 92% of these executive orders. And the Democrats are freaking out. Now, I kind of have an interesting position on this. I do not think that executive orders are okay at all. Because if you read the Constitution and the original system of checks and balances that gave us freedom, made this country great, you know that Congress is the only one that can make laws. And for some of you younger viewers that don't know what Congress is, it's the House of Representatives and the Senate, and it's composed of representatives elected from the states by the people to come and meet and debate and decide things by vote. There's 100 senators and there's 435 representatives. And they're supposed to create laws for the union. And the president is supposed to not make laws, but the president's job is to make sure that the laws that Congress passes get enforced. But over time, power has flown away from Congress and into the hands of the president. Because the president slowly realized over time, the next president, the president after that, realized that they could make laws faster than Congress, because Congress has to debate. And a lot of presidents started realizing that no one was pushing back on anything that they were doing, because Congress was too busy debating and the people wanted change quickly. And so this idea of an executive order came about. And basically what executive orders are doing are the president making new laws himself, not even going to Congress. And Trump's guilty of it too. Some of Biden's are more egregious, which we're about to read. But that's just unacceptable, because that's a king. That's authoritarian. If you put the lawmaking power into the hands of one man, he can do whatever he wants based on a whim. I want to read you some of Biden's executive orders. These ones were luckily struck down by the court, but these could have passed if we didn't have a conservative Supreme Court that actually tried to follow the Constitution. Even our conservative Supreme Court doesn't. Student loan forgiveness. He wanted to forgive $400 billion through executive authority. So your tax dollars are going to go, $400 billion of your tax dollars are going to go to forgive student loans. Biden wanted to, or I'm not going to say Biden, the administration, he was probably taking a nap, refuse ability to landlords to evict tenants. That sounds a little socialist to me. He wanted to make OSHA force 84 million private sector workers to get the experimental COVID vaccine that we know now killed a ton of people. He expanded, and those three were struck down by the court, but ones that weren't, he expanded parole to admit hundreds of thousands of migrants annually without searching them on a case-by-case basis. We let millions eventually into the country during Biden's presidency, unvetted. He wanted to have the Department of Education, DOJ, HHS promote gender-affirming care for minors. And he wanted to block states from adopting certain medical policies that would endanger this gender-affirming care for minors. It's ridiculous. If you have all this power in the hands of one man, and Trump is making the same mistake. I agree with a lot of his executive orders. I think keeping men out of women's sports I mean, that's a good thing in itself. That was one of the first ones Trump signed. But the problem is if you give all that power to one man, the next guy that comes in, who we hate, is going to fuck everything up. And look, that's what he did. These executive orders this is fascism. If a king is able to run wild without a body of people elected by the people to debate and go through these ideas, this is really dangerous. One of his executive orders created a law to withhold federal funding from schools that discriminated based on gender identity, meaning that hypothetically the Biden administration could withhold federal funding to a school that doesn't let men and women sports. So, yeah, I'm glad Trump is getting rid of these executive orders, but he should get rid of a lot of his too. And he has good intentions, I think, for the most part, but he needs to realize that he's not going to be in power forever. And sometimes I think he's delusional, and I think he thinks that everything's the best, and we're going to make everything so great, it's going to be so big, that he doesn't think like, hey, in 4 years you might not be in office. Might be some crazy Democrat retard scumbag that wants to put all these Biden executive orders back and just increase their power. And the conservative Supreme Court members might die, and he can replace them with a liberal Supreme Court that never follow the Constitution and just back up everything he says. And we live in a monarchy, so we can't let that happen. Anyway, number 2 in the news, have you heard about Trump accounts? This is interesting. I thought it sounded good at first, but I think Trump's made another big mistake. Donald Trump announced the launch of something called Trump Accounts. It's a federally backed investment program for children. So the government will use your tax dollars to give to children. They will give $1,000 of seed money to your kid at birth, and it's put into the account. And then the parents, relatives, and friends of this child are able to add money up to $5,000 a year into the account. And then the account is taken and invested in the stock market, in the S&P 500, so a bunch of the biggest stocks. And the idea is that will grow over time, and then the kid at 18 will be able to open it and have thousands of dollars and be able to make things more affordable. And that's the cry right now. I mean, everybody wants affordability, and I think that's a good thing. And Trump is trying to throw a bone to the masses that are crying, we need affordability. Really, if we got rid of regulations, if we got rid of the Federal Reserve, we would have affordability. Government's the one creating the problem. But Trump's too scared to do that because those institutions are so powerful, and it might hurt the chances of the Republicans in the House in the midterms. So he's not going to do it. And instead he's coming up with this ridiculous idea. But a lot of you might be saying, what's wrong with this, right? This is good. We're getting money into children's accounts. This is great. Trump said it's going to make little capitalists. This isn't really capitalist, though. Remember where the money is going. Into the same big corporations that everybody invests in. I am not anti-big business in principle. I think big business has done a lot. But the union between government and big business is dangerous. This is socialist or fascist economic planning. In all the totalitarian countries, and especially ones that aren't even socialist or communist necessarily, there's always a union between the government and big corporations, and it's a feedback loop. The government maneuvers so big corporations will follow what the government wants. And it's always the same ones. This is what's called crony capitalism. And so when your kid's money is being invested into tech, defense, medicine, these big companies in that, big pharma, the military industrial complex, these kind of things, it's just going to reinforce their power over the market. And the government is going to be able to say, hey, look, we're doing these favors for you by getting these children to invest in these big companies. So in turn, I need you to push our ideas, what foreign wars we want to be in defense, the medicine that we want out. Maybe we want you to enforce the vaccine more. Tell us it's good, That's really sketchy to me. Again, I'm not anti-big business in principle, but the union between government and big corporations is always bad. Also, over time, children will become financially dependent on these Trump accounts instead of learning how to take their own risks and support the companies that they choose. It's going to make kids dependent on the government for money. That's welfare. We don't like that. It creates laziness. This is the same thing that happened in the black community. People waiting for their welfare checks instead of deciding, taking the initiative. I'm going to invest here. I'm going to invest here. The market, like I said, is all of a sudden controlled by the government. And all the small companies get rooted out because all of the big money, all the thousands of dollars of all the kids in America are being invested in the big corporations. And thirdly, think about the stock market. So the children's money is invested in the stock market, but the stock market doesn't always do good. If you remember 1929, 2008, there were crashes. So if the stock market goes down, a children's financial future could crash with the stock market. So families are like saying, Trump accounts, we're going to do this, we're going to put all of our hope into this because we're destitute and poor and Trump's going to save us. And all of a sudden the stock market crashes and families are screwed. So we cannot do that. Anyway, number 3, and this is where I'm going to start to go off here. New York Times contributor embarks on an anti-white message saying, "You have lost." So there's a Pakistani origin Muslim New York Times contributor. He posted a message to his Substack account saying, "White Americans have lost and will be replaced with brown people. The 1965 Immigration and Nationality Act opened borders to the third world." He threatened that white women were going to come and marry brown men and the white race is going to be destroyed in the United States. So I thought the Great Replacement was a myth and a conspiracy theory, but now these dumbass liberal commentators are putting it in plain sight that that's what they're doing. And what he's referring to with that 1965 Immigration Act is that, let's give a short history of immigration actually in this country. So this country was a white, European, and mostly Protestant nation when it was founded. And the founders intended to keep it that way as much as possible because it was from Protestant ideas. Or Christian ideas too, specifically Protestant. I'm sorry, Catholics, but Christians are welcome because, Catholics are Christians too. And they were based on these ideas. The founders intended the United States to be a white Christian nation, European descent. And this wasn't like a racist thing. This isn't racial hatred. This comes from the fact that it was European Christians that came up with the ideas and believed in the ideas that gave our country freedom. That rights come from God, not man. Freedom of speech, checks and balances. This wasn't the case in many other countries. Islam, for example, doesn't have those views. They don't believe in that. They don't want that. All the Muslim nations are totalitarian countries where people are oppressed. The idea was that it's okay to let immigrants in, but they can't replace or they can't start to dilute the main group of people that founded the United States. A country can only survive if it's cohesive and has shared cultural traditions and shared values. And we did start immigration in the late 1800s more from Eastern European nations, and a lot more people were coming in, and they're still European nations, but they're not Western European, so they don't share really our cultural traditions or ideas or, Western civilization. But we were hawks about, there were standards for these people coming in, They have to learn the Gettysburg Address. They have to learn about George Washington. They have to know the Pledge of Allegiance. Need to know our heroes. They need to know our holidays. All these things are important. And they did a really good job of assimilating these immigrants into the U.S. However, people were still scared because they were starting to see our culture, just because of how many immigrants were coming in at once, was starting to get a little diluted. The Irish were having their own neighborhoods. Other people had their own neighborhoods. There was sort of segregation going on. And in 1924, the Republicans passed an Immigration Reduction Act. mostly aimed at third world countries, because in addition to Eastern Europe, there were third worlders pouring into the United States. And this, again, it's not a racial hatred thing. These people aren't inferior, but they have different cultural backgrounds than we do. And we want to be able to keep our cultural tradition and the things that make the United States great. And so we basically put a moratorium on immigration from 1924 to 1965. And the Democrats, 50 years later, 1965, opened up the borders and let people begin pouring into the country. And a country that was mostly white, like in the 90%, is now rapidly declining. It is now 59% white. And, there's all sorts of different racial groups, and they segregate into their own communities. And, they're all about their culture, and they want to shove that down your throat. And it's like, no, you came to America. This is American culture. You got to assimilate to that. So, yeah. And then this guy, he has the nerve to say, he's saying the quiet part out loud. 1965 Immigration Act. We won. Brown people are going to take over America. We're going to take your women. I can't believe he even said this. He's basically said, he wants to get rid of Western heritage. He's a socialist. He calls white culture chicken bland. He believes in redistribution of wealth. This is the exact kind of immigrant that I do not want. Ungrateful, shit stirrer, and basically is saying he wants to take over the greatest country on earth and make it into a shithole. That's basically what he wants. Mass immigration is a multifaceted effort to bring down Western Christian civilization. And there's two major power players in this, but they both have completely different ideas of what they're doing. And there's two main ones. There's a lot more. But what I'm going to talk about today is the Muslims, and then also the multicultural elitists in the deep state in the United States, and in plain sight in the governments of all the European nations. So Muslims are seeking world domination through religious takeover. That doesn't mean all of them, but a lot of them are. They have this idea: Islam is not a religion of peace. Going back to the very beginning, it is a religion of war. Since the 600s, since Muhammad, they've been taking over countries, forcing people to believe their religion, and putting in, incredibly dictatorial states where women are persecuted, minorities are persecuted. People have to follow the strict observance to the Quran. This has gone all over the Middle East, and now they're going into Europe. And I have proof here. I'm not coming to this without receipts. Libyan revolutionary Muammar Gaddafi. There are signs that Allah will grant Islam victory in Europe, without swords, without guns, without conquest. The 50 million Muslims of Europe will turn it into a Muslim continent within a few decades. Hizb-ut-Tahrir, global Islamist political organization. Here's its founder, Taqi al-Din al-Nabhani. In the forthcoming days, the Muslims will conquer Rome, and the dominion of Ummah of Muhammad will reach the whole world, and the rule of Muslims will reach as far as the day and night. And Muhammad will prevail over all other ways of life, including Western civilization. Abdul Allah Maududi, Islamic scholar. Islam is a revolutionary ideology and program which seeks to alter the social order of the whole world and rebuild it in conformity with its own tenets and ideals. It must be obvious that the objective of Islamic jihad to eliminate the rule of an Islamic system and establish in its place an Islamic system of state rule. Islam does not intend to confine this revolution to a single state or a few countries. The aim of Islam is to bring about universal revolution. People, wake up. This is happening. This is happening in Europe. This is happening in Minnesota with Tim Walz. And he sits on his ass and does nothing about it. It's happening in Dearborn, Michigan, where finally people are protesting and realizing that this is a problem. They have created communities in London. They've created communities all over Europe. And it's starting to... Sharia law is being emplaced in many places that used to be Christian majority. They're incompatible. You cannot put Sharia law and Islam together with Christianity. Completely different ideas. Name me one country, Muslim country, that's not an oppressive shithole to live in. And I don't think you can. And get mad at me all you want. It's true, and you know it's true, and you're just afraid to say it. And the interesting thing is, though, the Muslims are only one part of this multifaceted conspiracy, and they have completely different ideas than these multicultural elites that I'm about to talk about. Why are people in the European government, high-ups, and why is the deep state in the United States for open borders? Why is the Democratic Party for open borders? It doesn't make sense. I'll tell you why. They like chaos. When you have a bunch of people from different countries flooding in and segregating, you create a bunch of different groups, and it eventually, the white people will only take it for so long. The white Christians are only going to take it for so long. It causes friction. And there's friction between races. They say they're anti-racism. They love racism. They love to make it about race. They love to stir up division between the blacks and the whites and the Muslims and the Mexicans and everything like that. Because what they want to do is they want to create so much chaos, and they want to water down the culture of the United States. They want to water down Western civilization. So they make every single country have no distinctions from each other. They don't want Muslim takeover. They want every country to be a bland, secular state because of these mixes of ideas. None of them are dominant, and there's no cohesion. And so you start to lose the idea of what it means to be a country. Remember that song, Imagine There's No Countries. It isn't hard to do, nothing to kill or die for, or no religion too. This is exactly what they want. I'm going to give you some quotes here from some multicultural elites across Europe. George Soros, Hungarian-American billionaire and philanthropist, saying, "Open societies require strong institutions to manage diversity. Governments must guide migration to prevent social friction. Migration flows cannot be left to chance. They require planning, oversight, and coordination at an international level." Because when there's the point that there's no individual nations with their own culture, their own ideas, their own faith, their own traditions, and everything is watered down, it creates a chance for there to be not national sovereign governments, but a world government. George Soros calls for an alliance of democratic states that foster open border societies and create robust international institutions to ensure global cooperation and shared governance. Former Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, "We need European coordination to handle migration properly. Coordination between all the states. Sovereign nations alone cannot manage this. Centralized European Union government policies are essential." Peter Sutherland, former UN Special Representative on Migration and Global Mobility advocate, testifying before the UK House of Lords, said European Union should do its best to undermine the sense of homogeneity and difference form in other member states. They're saying it out loud. They're saying the quiet part out loud. They do not want you to have a culture. They want you to be a citizen, not of the United States, but a citizen of the world. And the way they do that is mixing and intermingling different traditions and cultures, breeding up division, and then using the government to step in and create a more powerful state to oppress people. They're literally saying it. And they're using the Muslims as part of this multifaceted conspiracy to bring down Western civilization. And you must wake up. This is not about left and right. This is about maintaining a free country or living under the New World Order. And again, I just want to make this clear for the billionth time. I am not a racist. I am not pro-racial hatred. I believe that it is okay for the best of the best from other countries to come here and assimilate to our values. But we have to remain the core of Western civilization. We have to have the same people, the same culture that founded us, or we can no longer survive. And I hope you understand that. I'm not coming from a place of hate. I want Mexico to keep its culture. I don't want to pour into Muslim countries and make them Christian. I want them to be able to keep their culture. It's none of my business. That's why I'm America only. I care about my country. I want you to care about yours. So don't come flooding in here and try and change my culture. I just want to make that clear. But anyway, that's my rant for today. I'm a fan of movies. I don't know if you are, but it seems like recently movies have become god-awful, like something I would never spend my money on. Like what happened to the 80s and 90s? I mean, in one year, Pulp Fiction, Shawshank Redemption, and Forrest Gump came out. So today, I'm going to be reacting to some popular movie trailers and just see that if I should return to the theater in the near future. All right, this is 28 years later, The Bone Temple. It's coming out in January.
This is a memorial to the dead.
So,
Uh-oh, this looks satanic.
It is.
are you Old Nick?
Old Nick. You mean Satan?
Yes. Old Nick released his demons unto the world of man.
Ooh, this is interesting.
And the world of man fell before the demons.
I remember details, events, and people. The world had an order.
What's your name?
Spike.
No, I think your name is Jimmy.
The foundations. They seemed unshakable.
Okay, they kind of ruined this. I thought this was going to be like demons infiltrating society, metaphorically, but instead it's this like outright blood and gore zombie movie bullshit.
When the infected attack, what do they see? I believe the infection can be treated.
Yeah, see, they ruined it. Of course it's not going to be good.
And now, a leap into the unknown.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm the weird one, but to me, movies are more scary. Demons are invisible. Those are the real demons, you know. They slowly infect people by changing culture. This is just every movie, you know, where it's like actual zombies biting people. That's not really how evil works. So I guess it'd be a fun movie, but not one that particularly scares me. All right, we'll go to Shelter, also 2026. Ads, what are you going to do? Okay, we got an action one.
Does the name Michael Mason ring any bells?
Mason isn't just an assassin. He's a precision instrument. He was one of the first of elite operatives.
Then what happened?
I bring you supplies week after week, yet you never leave here. Why is that? Most people just say thank you.
Don't ever come up here again.
This is misogynistic.
Send them.
What's happening?
Don't make a sound. Don't come out until I come for you.
Weapons free. Kill target on sight.
team come in?
They're all gone.
Not getting any idea of the plot here. You're just
What are
seeing.
these guys?
Up the reservation. Good baggage. You need to throw everything you've got at him.
Are they going to arrest you?
It's not the police I'm worried about. The people that are doing this broke the only rule that matters, did they?
His profile's been altered.
Our target is not who we thought. I want him taken in alive.
I need a way out for her. She's just a kid who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Come on.
Look at you. No country, no badge. You're gone.
Not gone. Unshackled.
No, this doesn't look bad. I'm just not getting an idea of, like, what's going on. Maybe that's a good thing, though, because it'll make me watch it. Yeah. Looks like a good action movie. Might disappoint me. Most action movies today focus on, like, special effects. And special effects are cool, but you have to have a story, too. Bottom of the line. I know I sound like a weird boomer, but that is true. A good movie has to have both. Actually, there are good movies with good stories and terrible special effects that are still good. So I'd like to have both, but story is more important overall. All right, let's see which one. Goose, Spider-Man, Brand New Day.
Is that an iPhone?
Tom Holland is annoying, so we'll see.
Alrighty. So how you feeling? Yeah, I feel good, man. It's day one. My fourth ever day one on Spider-Man. You know, it's funny, putting the suit on, it feels different this time, somehow.
You are
It's
not
also the first time
Spider-Man.
I've ever had
Bring back
fans
Tobey
on set
Maguire.
for day one, so it's really exciting to share this with them.
Of course, it zooms up on his ass.
We've got some familiar faces on set. You know, I'm just going to do my best.
It's not even a trailer.
No pressure.
What am I watching? Okay, that wasn't a trailer. It was like actually Tom Holland just dancing around and people filming him. I don't know why that was labeled a trailer. Shit. There we go. Yeah, not gonna see it. Don't care. Marvel movie sucks. The original Spider-Mans were masterpieces. And yeah, everything else since then has been pretty awful. But yeah, I'm a DC guy. I like Batman more anyway. But I don't know what that was. But anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.